Bring your t-shirts, bring your shorts, bring your shin pads if you need to, and bring your dinner if you know what I mean. Thank you so much for everyone who supported this channel over the course of however long. We've reached the huge, monumental game that is Arsenal against PSG, and we're going to talk about it all in today's Arsenal News Show. Good morning to you all. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in for what is today's Arsenal News Show, joining every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And good morning to those joining us live in the chat box. Good morning to Matt G, to Paul, to Black Shine, to Glenn, to Stevie, to Shari, Claire and Barry, Knowledge, Colin, Nikolai. We've got Martin and Errol. We've got Natty, Tom and Aris, Silky and Rowan and Loga, Roy, Z, Paul, Grantley Poos, Amira, Hooded Gooner, and Paul Jr., and Rich, and Carrie Ann, Olawale, and Maximius, and Norris. Good morning to you all and more. Thank you, everyone, for listening, everyone for tuning in, everyone for catching up, of course, as always, as well. And today is the day. Arsenal versus PSG in the Champions League semi-final. Oh, what a magical morning. What a magical day we hope it's going to be. What yesterday was the perfect setup. All the noise, all the talk, all the suggestions really have lived up to the hype so far. And now it is all about this game. It's all about this moment. It's all about whether Arsenal can put themselves into a very strong position going to Paris in order to secure their place in the first Champions League final since 2006. What a season it has been for both good and bad reasons, but it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Only this matters. Only this moment can separate Arsenal from history, really, and they need to be able to try and do what they have been doing in this competition all the way through, which is win games, be difficult to beat, take on all the odds, beat the odds, and turn over some very, very, very good sides, just like PSG are. But good morning to you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you could drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, that would be greatly appreciated. Right, let's jump into today's story, shall we? We're just going to take a quick... I mean, it's not really a detour because it does link in. But, of course, last week you remember that I said that I wasn't able to go to the press conference ahead of the game against Crystal Palace because I was doing something that I couldn't mention, couldn't talk about. And where I was, and I know this is obviously going to be funny because last month I was at Buckingham Palace. Well, last week I was at 10 Downing Street. I was invited into the halls of residence of our country's leader to talk with him briefly about Arsenal and about the game, of course, at the weekend, but rather midweek, but also our young players of an English persuasion, because there was celebrations of St. George's Day last week, and so there was a theme of talking about England and the English presence in the Arsenal team. And so if you would like to read my interview with the UK Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, you can indeed read that in the chat box. So if you want to go and give that a read, it is in today's video description. It's nothing political. It's all football. So you don't need to worry about being overruled by political statements or whatever. It's just football. So just go and give that a read. I was very clear and keen to make it not political in any way. So it's just a chat with an Arsenal fan who happens to be the leader of our nation. But yeah, go give that a read in the description. But it certainly was, a career highlight again for myself. It's mad to think that we've started out this channel sitting in I think I did the first show on this channel sitting in my living room of not my last house, not the house before that, but the house before that. I've had 4 house moves in the time since since we've started off doing this show, and 9 years later, we're sitting in 10 Downing Street, and it wasn't lost on me kind of the crazy journey that this has been on, and if this journey has taken us some places, well, it's taken us some places. It's taken us to some mad areas, this whole thing. So thank you. Whatever political persuasion you are, I don't care, quite frankly. But it's just more about where we as a community can go, where this channel has taken us and our experiences of watching, of me hosting, of me interviewing people. And it's kind of crazy to see. So thank you for the kind support. Without you, things like this don't happen, and moments like this don't go on. So thank you for your kind support. And it is, again, it's not lost on me, the opportunities that come around thanks to the brilliant community we have here that's led me into the job that I do today. But good morning to you all. Let's get on with the football and let's talk about the game. I was at the Emirates, of course, yesterday ahead of the game against PSG, ahead of the game against what are obviously a very difficult side to face. And we all know that the Emirates Stadium against Real Madrid and that game was just special. Like the atmosphere, the noise, the everything about that game was utterly brilliant. And we are expecting new levels tonight, new reasons to be happy and loud and noisy. And yesterday at the Emirates, you could see from the picture I've put up on there, I took this picture inside the Emirates watching the PSG Open training session, who were at the game, at the stadium, yesterday, that there obviously is a lot of work going on to these tifos that are going to be hung from the roof. What I did find quite interesting is there was behind me, so that's obviously a picture looking at the North Bank. When you turn around, you look at the clock end, where the away fans tend to sit. There was also some suspensions, which I don't know if it means they're going to do some suspensions on the clock end side either. But I don't know whether or not there's going to be anything on the clock end side. There is meant to be kind of a crowd surfing tifo on the day, but certainly it was a very, very interesting sight to see that there was this kind of clock end preparation, but I don't know what that entails or what that's going to do, if indeed anything. It might just be a red herring. We'll see. But certainly I'm looking forward to tonight's atmosphere and all of that as well. But I did mention, of course, there was an open training session for PSG. The Arsenal open training session was still done at the Arsenal training centre. And Mikel Merino and both him and Ben White were both there, both fit, both training, which is obviously a great sign. Mikel Arteta was also speaking in his press conference. We'll talk more in depth about shortly. But both Mikel Merino and Ben White were both there in training and available. So it's going to be great to hopefully see them back in the squad and ready to give their absolute all in this first leg of the semi-final. But then back to the Emirates, because Luis Enrique spoke first. Strange scenario to see the away manager speak first on the pre-match press conference day, but he is a character, I'll tell you that. It was an interesting scenario because he speaks Spanish when asked questions in French and then has a French translator next to him. And we obviously, the English speakers in the room, had headsets on that translated the Spanish from French into English. So we were kind of getting it of the third kind, if you like, which obviously makes the quotes a little bit trickier sometimes to get right and to get clear and to get exactly what he means. If you're getting a direct translation, it's obviously better, but going through three languages to get to what you speak, perhaps sometimes changes the context, changes the sarcasm or the tone of what he's saying quite considerably. He was in quite a deflective mood. It's clear his relationship with the French press is not particularly great. He was making he kind of like batted away questions with some jokes and made reference to how the media views him quite negatively and how PSG are viewed quite negatively. One of the French journalists was quite pointed in his question and basically said something on the lines of, "You've been making lots of jokes. You think that we think negatively of you," sort of thing. And he was kind of like, "Yeah, yeah, I do." And he's kind of he referenced how everyone's talking about our losses recently and they're not talking about our wins. This is a PSG side that have wrapped up the title. This is a PSG side that are now in the Champions League semi-finals, and they've got an excellent record recently of getting to the Champions League semi-final. But yeah, I mean, PSG are also in the French Cup final where they'll face Stade Rennes as well. So it's like that they could end up winning a treble this season, and yet still they're being talked about negatively. That's just how PSG are. That's just how PSG are viewed and spoken about. But of course, they've only won one of their last 4 games, PSG. They've lost to Villa. They lost to Nice. They drew with Nantes and they narrowly beat Le Havre. So their recent form is not particularly great. Neither's Arsenal's. Arsenal, of course, have drawn 3 of their last 4 Premier League games, I think. So, it's not like form does mean anything in these European matches. But certainly I think that the game against Aston Villa shows that PSG can be, certainly something to look at and to see what can be taken advantage of and how PSG can be got at. So that's going to be something to I think, take into account. But of course, the main part of the day was Mikel Arteta's press conference, which took place a little while after. Gabriel Martinelli also spoke to the press. I asked Martinelli about his contract situation, and unsurprisingly, he spoke rather lovingly of Arsenal. He says, I've always said that I'm really happy here. This is my home. I love to be here. I love the club. The club has given me so much, not just on the pitch, but off it. So it wasn't like yes, I want to sign a new contract, but it was very much this is my home. I love being here. I love Arsenal. And I know it feels like I keep asking players about their contracts recently, but to be fair, every player that's been put up so far are the players that only have 2 years left on their deal, like Saliba and Saka and now Martinelli as well. So I felt it was important to ask him about his future. And I'm glad that I did, because I think he answered that question in a really good way. But yes, Arteta's press conference was mainly all about the occasion. It certainly feel like that's what he wanted to get across, the message. He said when he was asked about, does it feel like an opportunity? The biggest game of your life, John Cross, I think, said. What can the atmosphere bring? What an opportunity it is. And he says it does. In a sense, it does feel like the biggest game of our lives. You sense it. You sense the energy. You sense the enthusiasm, that it's something unique, probably one of the biggest games that the Emirates has seen since we built it. And yeah, full of energy, enthusiasm. I can't wait to play tomorrow. John said it's incredible to think Arsenal have never won this trophy, bearing in mind the success that they've had. So what would that mean to you? And also bearing in mind the season that you've had, just what would it mean to win the European Cup? And Arteta said, especially with the circumstances that we have had this season, how we have overcome a lot of issues and challenges, and the fact that the team is here as one of the 4 best teams in Europe, it tells you about the mindset, the spirit, and how much we really want it. So yeah, we are making history. It's a beautiful story right now, but we want much more. I have to stress this point again. It is nuts that Arsenal are here. It is crazy that Arsenal sit in the Champions League semi-final. It's mad they're still second in the table. What has happened to Arsenal this season and their squad, and obviously some of the decisions domestically as well, but mainly the absences that Arsenal have suffered to such key players in key moments. We didn't get Saka back until the quarterfinals of this competition. We still managed to finish 3rd in the Champions League table. Despite nobody thinking that we were going to get any goals against PSV, we put 7 past them in Eindhoven and win 9-3 on aggregate overall. We get drawn against Real Madrid and people suggesting we're going to be, this is the moment Arsenal has shown up. This is a different kettle of fish. People's footballing knowledge being put in the bin because Mikel Arteta's Arsenal side, depleted Arsenal side, the only thing going in the bin that day was Real Madrid. It is nuts that Arsenal are here. No Gabriel until the end of the season. Arsenal's arguably Arsenal's most important player. Most important player. I really cannot get enough of this team's energy and attitude and feeling. I can't. And I've not seen, this type of sense since, well, I'm struggling. This feeling of of just keep on going. That we can achieve things well above our station. All Arsenal have done since Arteta has come in is punch upwards. They've never punched down. We just punch upwards. We keep on overachieving based upon what people's expectations of us are with this side. And the fact that we're in a Champions League semi-final with this team, with this depleted side, nuts. Absolutely crazy. And we're going to have to keep doing it without some key players, of course, as well. As I've mentioned, no Havertz, no Gabriel, no Jesus, no Tomiyasu. No, Calafiori still, obviously, as well. PSG have a fully fit side, it's worth pointing out. They have no injuries. Everybody for PSG is available. They have not lost a single player going into this match, and they have a full squad to choose from, which is another challenge. He was asked if he feels the weight of history, and obviously never having won this tournament, it's only the third semi-final. Is that a big part of this? And Arteta says you feel it, especially because we have, fortunately, a lot of people that have worked in the club for many, many years, and they've never been in this position. So that tells you how unique and beautiful it is. It's the nicest competition for any European club. We've never done it, and so we need to earn the right to be in that final, and everything is going to start tomorrow. He was asked about PSG, and he said in terms of that he was asked in terms of PSG, they've been excellent all season, but certainly since the turn of the year, and yet Villa showed that maybe they can be vulnerable. Do you take anything from what Villa did in that second leg? And he said, yeah, obviously you learn a lot from every game. It's different. I think the context and the results from both games are very, very different. The same with Liverpool. But yeah, what I take as well, a lot of things is the game that we played here. We understand how strong they are as a team, the individuals that they have, but we have the same. So when you get to this stage, I think the margins of the difference between the two teams is not so big. It's really the mindset, it's the attitude, and how we're going to play the game tomorrow. Now, when Arsenal played PSG, of course, earlier in the year, in October, they had players that, of course, they don't have now. Gabriel started, Kai Havertz started, Thomas Partey started, who I haven't mentioned is also going to be missing for this game as well. Calafiori played left back, who is also going to be missing. So that's already 4 players who started the game against PSG last time, who Arsenal will not have access to this time. You could argue that Saka's still not fully fit. You could argue that, Ødegaard, who missed that game actually, because he wasn't available. Ødegaard was missing that day, him being back, but of course still himself not fully fit. It's asking a lot of this squad. Mars Lewis Skelly and Jakub Kiwior both came off the bench that day, as did Mikel Merino, and they're probably all 3 of them going to be starting this game. And that's also very important to highlight as well. But Arteta was then asked the kind of the famous question from the press conference. And I loved this answer from Arteta. He was asked, we saw how the team invested so much emotional energy in the crowd as well into that Real Madrid game and the atmosphere. Is it a case of just doing that again? And Arteta said, more. Tomorrow, more. I told them, and I'm not exaggerating when I said, guys, bring your boots, bring your shorts, bring your T-shirts, and let's play every ball together. We want to do something special. That place has to be something special, something that we haven't seen. And I really hope that everybody that comes tomorrow to the Emirates and is watching and following us, it brings that energy with them. That, for me, is the quote of the press conference. And we were talking in the press room afterwards and making reference to that John Sitton quote, where it's a completely different context. And this is one of inspiration, whereas John Sitton's speech was one of anger and frustration, where he basically said, and bring your effing dinner. That's just kind of the way it kind of felt. And it came across in that way of bring your shorts, bring your socks, bring your T-shirts. I mean, it would be the most comical thing to see fans sitting there in full kit. Because, there's this weird thing in the UK where kind of full kit is kind of thought of as something of a negative thing, isn't it? It's like a negative thing to think about people wearing full kits. Some people do it as an adult and it's kind of looked on badly. You only wear a kit when you're obviously playing a game, not watching a game. But I wonder how many people take that seriously. I wonder how many people turn up in their full kit tomorrow. It'd be great to see. It would show the inspiration, the pull that Arteta has got. I've been sitting here thinking, obviously, being in the press box, it means I'm not allowed to wear Arsenal clothing. I'm not going to say I've never done it before. I definitely have sneaked on an Arsenal hoodie once or twice. It's not exactly hoodie weather these days. And I was thinking, can I? So Art de Roche has a brilliant coat, an Adidas coat, which is not Arsenal specific, but his coat is so Arsenal-like, you would just assume that it's an Arsenal coat, and it's not. And I was sitting there thinking today, I wonder if I can get hold of something today at some point when I'm out before the game that's slightly, you would look at it and think, oh, he's wearing Arsenal colours. But I don't know. But he's not wearing Arsenal colours because they're not. And I wonder if that's possible. So I'm going to have a look around today and see if I can grab hold of something which would be inclined to do that. I know I'm such a rebel soup. I know. Control me, please. I'm just beyond control. But yeah, my question to Arteta, it was quite late in the press conference. Everything that was going to be asked would have been asked, by that point. But I was quite surprised that the women's game had not come up in the press conference yet. And I was really keen to have that talked about. So I said, and because I've been around the block a little bit about Arsenal, so I hear things now and again. There's this theme that I hear that's talked about with Arsenal. That's this thing called one club. So it's like a principle at Arsenal called one club, where the men's and the women's team is thought of as one thing. Arsenal is one club. That famous line from Ian Wright of, if you support the club, you support the whole club. You don't support 50% of it and just the men's team. If you're an Arsenal fan, you support the whole thing. And one club is where we're at. So that's what we're thinking about. That's what we're here to, really think about, is the fact that Arsenal is one club. And my question was that I'd heard this term one club mentioned when talking about the men's and the women's team at Arsenal. And I said, there's a chance that Arsenal could have two teams in a Champions League final this season. Can you take inspiration from what we saw in Lyon? And Arteta said the women's team has already earned that. And it's been an inspiration. It's been incredible what they've done to achieve it in the manner that they've done it. For us, it's just showing the road, the pathway, how we can do it and how inspiring it is for us, because we want to be there as well. And for Arsenal to have both of their men's and women's teams in the Champions League final would be absolutely amazing. And I'd love to see that. I'd love to be at both, to be honest. And I'm trying to see if I might be able to get to Lisbon. It's going to prove rather difficult. It's what Arsenal have done this season across the club is just it's just one of those things that I can't wait to see if it happens. Supporting Arsenal this season has been a real challenge, and it's been a real moment of frustration and angst and an irritation and a sense of not fulfilling potential. But all that can kind of go away if Arsenal do something very special in this competition, and could be the greatest achievement Arsenal ever do by winning this. Would it be greater than the Invincibles? Tough, probably not, but it's up there. It's certainly up there. It'd be amazing as well if both teams in the final are Barcelona and Arsenal. Not Barcelona, I think. Inter Milan are the team that I weirdly fear the most. I feel like Inter Milan, just to kind of have something over Arsenal stylistically, I don't think it's a good matchup for us. But both PSG and Barcelona, for me, are more suited to how we play. And it was something that wasn't asked in the press conference, but maybe something I would ask if we win tonight, and I can ask it post-match, is that there's this sense that the teams and how they play in Europe does suit Arsenal much, much more than how we do play against some of the teams in the Premier League, how domestically they set up very defensively and in these low blocks. But in Europe, you're offered more space, you're offered more time on the ball, you're offered more opportunities. And, well, maybe that is the way in which Arsenal can get some real joy. So I look forward to this. I look forward to Arsenal tonight. And I look forward to some of your questions, which we're going to be taking in part 2 right after this. Now, I've just realised that I was also meant to do a, as we always do before games, I was meant to do a preview. I've literally just remembered to put the slide together. So while I'm talking briefly here, I'm just putting together the team that I would choose for today's game. I don't think it should be any surprises to anybody what team anybody is going to go for this match. I think most people would probably have the same team as we have come to expect from Arsenal. Not in every game, because of course some players are indeed unavailable, but I think on the most part, most people are expecting the same team to be played. So let me just share the screen with you. We won't play the credits again, but we can go to the yellow screen and throw my lineup out. This is what I'm expecting. It's what I'd like to see, of course, as well. Raya, Timber, Saliba, Kivior, Mars, Lewis, Skelly, Rice playing the 6th role, Merino the left 8, Erdegaard at 10, Saka on the right, Martinelli on the left, Trossard through the middle. I think this is just the obvious team, like the team that it should be. Of course, this was the team that was playing majority, at least, other than Zinchenko, other than Timber, it was White and Zinchenko in the fullback areas against Ipswich, but everybody else was in this team. And we played excellently that day against a very poor Ipswich side, yes, but Merino was great. The way in which he moved into those attacking areas, he seems to dovetail with Trossard really well. You can't really, even though this is the team on paper, the positions of Merino and Trossard in particular are very fluid. They don't stay in the same place. They interchange and they move. And that creates spaces. It creates vulnerabilities, it's worth pointing out as well. And Rice will have a huge job to do playing that number 6 position. But he obviously has, a lot of talent around him, a lot of thoughts and brilliance with him, as well. So let's wait and see what happens. But that's my team. Saka, star boy, obviously. It's time for him to have his best game in an Arsenal shirt, I think. And I sincerely hope that he has the number of Nuno Mendes, because he's had a brilliant campaign. Nuno Mendes shut down Mohamed Salah very effectively, and hopefully Arsenal can showcase why Saka has been, for me, and he is still the most important player in the Premier League in an attacking sense for a single team. So let's wait and see. But scoreline, scores, predictions. Now's the time to get your scorelines in the chat box. I'm going to go 3-0 Arsenal. I'm going to go for a repeat of the Real Madrid game. I'm feeling confident. I think we've got to use that momentum. We've got to use that belief. We've got to use that noise. We've got to take it on. And we've got to go into this game with, as I say, confidence. So I'm going with 3-0 Arsenal. Mohamed's also going 3-0 Arsenal. Love that. Kira's going 3-1. Louis says 2-1 Arsenal, hoping for a 3-1 though. Laughing Man says 3-1 Starboy, Bossard and Erdegaard as the goal scorers. Jason says 4-0. Even more optimistic than me, which takes some doing, Jason. So fair play to you. Ian says 2-1. Would love to be 2-0 if we were to win the first leg. It would be huge as an advantage as well. Mr. Rob is the man says, will we see a late Ben White screamer? Got to run. I'm calling a shootout. Arsenal 5, PSG 3. Knowledge says, my head says 2-0. My heart says 3-0. Answer says 2-0. Nanami says 4-0 to the Arsenal. Kazang says 3-1. Grantley Boo says 3-1. Soup says 3-1. Loga says 3-1. Barry says 2-0. Temi says a 3-0 defeat with Kavica Kvaratskhelia showing us what we're missing. Temi's always throwing in our reverse psychology prediction, so I'll allow it. Kirill says 3-1 Arsenal. Runs with Cal says 3-1 Arsenal. NSW says 2-0. Claire says the score will be 2-0 to Arsenal, Saka and Merino. Major Lee says 2-1 PSG. Not feeling too confident is Lee. Ed says 2-1. Saba says 4-0. Axe says 2-0. And Gabby says 50-0. I don't know how PSG will handle 60,000 people in full kits going at them. That's a really good point. I'm sure we can break the rules, can't we? Have 60,000 people on the pitch. I think that makes sense. I'm really curious. Genuinely, if you're going tonight and you've got the cojones, please go in a full kit. I'd love it. I really would love to see so many people turning up in full kits. It would be a meme. If we lose, it would be taking the mick out of us forever. Yes, that's the risk, of course, but Arteta's asked for it. The leaders asked for it. The manager wants it. If you can go in a full kit, go in a full kit. I implore you, please. Right, let's go to some of your questions and some of your thoughts. If you use a capital Q, it of course does help all of those things stand out in the chat box, and it makes it much, much easier for me to pick out those comments. So throw them in now, and I'll do my best to answer them. I'll just scroll up a little bit because I feel like I might have missed some of them earlier on. Roy says, Tom, first Buckingham Palace, now Downing Street. White House for the hat trick. Oh, I'd rather not. I'll just put that out there right now. I don't think I need to make that hat trick yet. I just don't think I need to do that. What would the hat trick be? I guess the Champions League final. It's a pretty good hat trick, is it not? I think that's the one. Louis says, what's our TGT prediction now that Havertz is injured? Because we can't say a Havertz hat trick. So I think Saka? I think we just go for Saka, right? Star boy, Champions League semi-final, Star boy hat-trick. That's got to be it. That's what I'm going to go for. 3-0 Arsenal, Saka to score all three. That's what we want. Oliver says, how does Sir Tom of the Arsenal sound? Not great. A little bit me. Can't say that. Can't say it's it's crossed my mind, Oliver, to be honest. Nor do I think just doing an interview with the PM or being in Buckingham Palace gets me anywhere near that type of thing. So I don't think so. There are far more deserving people than me. many more. Ian says they also lost 500 supporters. The ticket allocation for the away fans got cut short due to disturbance in the last match. I think it's a lot to do with security. Arsenal, of course, have also lost some of their allocation, I believe, for the away game. Both teams are around 4.1% of the allocation for both respective stadiums. So it is the same for both teams in the ground. They've got like 2,500 fans. Arsenal have got 2,000 fans because it feels the same allocation. Owen says, are you sitting next to Harry tonight? If not, WTF. Screw the banners, the music and the chants. This is clearly the single most important factor in the outcome of this game. Get it sorted. So, if you want to take this up with anybody, and I'm sure Harry's doing a show this morning, you take this up with Mr. Simiu, okay? Because Mr. Simiu is not sitting next to me tonight, because Mr. Simiu is going as a fan tonight. He's not working the game. Now, I was reliably told by a good friend of mine at the club that had Harry have been there, that because of superstition and because we'd made reference to it a little bit from the Madrid games, because we sat together at the Emirates, we sat together at the Bernabeu, and we won those games. I was told reliably that had Harry have been working, we would have been sitting together. But of course, Harry is not working. Harry is going as a fan. I am also told, and was told, that there is a contingency plan. I will let you know what that contingency plan was tomorrow, because I'm not entirely sure. But I'm told there's a contingency. I don't think it's me sitting in the Emirates crowd with my laptop on my lap, but there is a backup plan. So let's see. But no, me and Harry are not sitting next to each other because Harry's not working tonight. He's going as a fan. I don't know who I'm going to be sitting next to. All I know is that if Arsenal end up scoring a few goals, they may be getting bumped and bruised with my celebrations if I can contain them. Indeed, Damien. Oh, Harry, what have you done? That is what I was asking myself as well. Should have fought harder, Harry. Should have fought harder. Nizakit says, what is the key battle for me that we have done to win to ensure victory? For me, the midfield battle is the most important. It's interesting this. So Vitinha was the PSG player at the press conference yesterday, and he was asked a question about the physicality of the PSG midfield and how it stacks up against players like Rice and Merino, who of course have greater amounts of physicality than Vitinha and João Neves and Fabian Ruiz, of course. And he took it quite offensively. He took it quite personally, that question. And it was interesting that he was very keen to put across the point that they don't feel physically inferior to Arsenal's midfield, and they don't see it as a disadvantage at all. So certainly that's not the way they're thinking about it. Not at the moment, at least. Frank says, Tom, who are you worried among the PSG players going against Arsenal? Oh, to be honest, Frank, I'm worried about all of them. They have a very, very good team. It's not necessarily about individuals. Desiree Doué is in brilliant form. Barcola is a player I have a lot of time for, but Kvaratskhelia seems to be starting the majority of games at the moment. Probably the best one-on-one player in the world, but we arguably have the best one-on-one defender in Jurriën Timber in the world. So that's going to be a great battle on Arsenal's right-hand side. You've also got William Saliba up against Ousmane Dembele, two Frenchmen battling one another for superiority. That's going to be a great battle. Kivior, of course, and Miles Lewis-Skelly against Doué. That's one to really think about. Fabian Ruiz up against Declan Rice. Mikel Merino taking on João Neves. Odegaard, of course, also having to work hard against the likes of Vitinha. And then you've got the fullbacks, Hakimi and Mendes, who've got to take on Martinelli and Saka, while also, of course, Miles Lewis-Skelly and Timber have got to also do a job, and our wingers defensively. It's such a tactically interesting fixture. It's such an interesting matchup of teams. The wide areas are so good, for both sides. But centrally, there's a real battle that could be won technically with PSG or more physically with Arsenal. So it's a really interesting matchup for Arsenal. And I'm very curious how Arteta's team is going to deal with it. Willow Mafire says, who is the better Arsenal? Good luck, Harry or Charles? Oh, Harry, without a doubt. I don't know if you've heard the stories. Charles is not going to be in Paris because he feels that it's too bad of an omen for him to be in Paris. So Charles won't be there. He will be there tomorrow night. But tonight, sorry. But yeah, he's not going to be in Paris for reasons that should become obvious. I was not in Paris in 2006, is worth pointing out, nor have I ever been to watch football in Paris. So my record in that sense is clean. And I will be in Paris next week for that game, and very much looking forward to it. Ashley says, I trust our defence to match their attack. PSG midfield is not stronger, faster than ours. Their fullbacks are going to be busy with Saka, Martinelli, Leo. Must be 10 out of 10 against their centre-backs, considering he is not stronger / faster. Ajmal says, I think we could win today, but these 3-0 and 4-0 predictions, are we that confident after watching them how they played against Liverpool? I think it's not about PSG, is it, those predictions? Those predictions are all about Arsenal. Those predictions are all about the confidence that Arsenal have given us after doing what we did against Real Madrid. You know, yes, 2 of those goals came from brilliant free kick moments, but we also created plenty of chances in that game. We could have been winning by 4, 5, 6 against Real Madrid at home. We really could. If we'd have been a bit more clinical, we could have been absolutely battering Real Madrid in that game. And we didn't have a fully fit Saka for that match. And we could have been even better. And Saka is very, very close to being very much back. So I think there's a really good opportunity here for Arsenal to get a very good game. And you know what? I'm weirdly happy having the first leg at home. I kind of like the idea of what we did in the first leg against Madrid, of getting an unassailable lead, having that over your opponent, knowing that you've got the lead going into the second leg. Arsenal have never lost to PSG in any competition. We knocked them out of the Cup Winners' Cup semi-final in the 90s. Kevin Campbell, of course, scored that brilliant goal to take Arsenal to the final. We drew with them twice in the Champions League under Arsene Wenger in the group stages, home and away. We beat them earlier on this season, 2-0. That's the 5 games that we've had against them, but we've never lost. So we've got a good record against them. And even though history doesn't really matter too much, I think Aston Villa showed that they can be got at. Aston Villa showed they can be scored on against. But they also showed that they are, PSG, very, very, very dangerous. And Arsenal need to be very, very aware of that as well. John says, Madrid slowly becoming the most loathsome club in world football. Also, maintain Mbappe is not world class, top class individuals. But to be world class, you need to be more than individual talent. I mean, they're annoying, but we don't really have to deal with them. So probably not. I'd say Liverpool are more loathsome right now than Real Madrid are. Much more loathsome. By the way, fair play to those Everton fans who took the time to wrap up some blue flares in red livery. That was great. That was one of the best stories of the weekend. Those blue flares going up. Absolutely enjoyed that greatly. More stuff like that, please. Please, more stuff like that. Just harmless, great footballing fun. Paul says, any news on Havertz? He looks fit. Does he? He looks fit. I mean, he's a decent-looking guy. In all seriousness, though, Kai Havertz, does he look fit? Has he been posting to his Instagram feeds? He posted that on the 10th of April, didn't he? That kind of rehab video. I haven't seen him since, so I don't know where kind of videos of Kai Havertz are coming from right now. But I've not really seen too much. I don't think he'll be fit for the game against PSG in the away leg, but maybe for the end of the season, we could see a little bit of Havertz. He's really fighting. He's fighting to be back for the end of the season. He's kind of really hoping Arsenal can make it to the final so he can offer us something. It's very, 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 very optimistic, I think, to see that happening. Apparently he was training. I don't think he was, Paul. He was not at training yesterday. I don't think he was at training at all. I've not seen any suggestions. I've watched the whole training session. I didn't see him. So unless I'm blind, I must have missed him, Paul. So I've not seen Kai Havertz, I'm afraid. Not at all. Sorry. No suggestions so far that Havertz is going to be back for this game or for the away leg either. So sorry about that. but he wasn't in training. Spearman says, Tom, are we sure we didn't sign Calafiori to sell merchandise? It just sucks, doesn't it, really, his injury record right now? It's just been very, very unlucky. Knee injuries are horrible. Unfortunately, he suffered one. They're really hard to rehab from, especially ones that don't require surgery and you're kind of just building back as well. So, yeah, maybe he does need surgery and he's just kind of putting off to see if he can make an impact at the end of the season. Then we'll have a surgery after the season's done. I'm not sure, but very difficult. Dara says, bit of a stupid question, but just how important is getting a win tonight? Oh, that's tough, Dara. Just going to get my dictionary out of terms to use. Very, very. We'll go with very, very important, Dara. But thanks for the question. Paul says, great show, Tom. I have split now, TGTers. I have to split now, TGTers. I have an important hospital appointment this morning. Come on, you Gooners, 3-0 win. All best of thoughts all with you, Paul, and hope everything's okay. Spearman says, I recommend winning. It's not a bad answer either. It's a pretty good recommendation. Try and take that on board. Justina says, Arsenal will win the Champions League this season. Love it. Loved the optimism. And I love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate your time. Thank you for your ears. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your praise. Thank you for your kind words. It is all greatly appreciated indeed. Thank you for your donations. Thank you, Raj, for your super chat, your humble super chat. Very much appreciated. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning where we will be talking about whatever happens tonight. If you're at the game tonight, bring your noise. If you're at the game tonight, bring your shorts. Bring your T-shirts. Bring your shin pads. Bring your dinner if you need to. Bring it all. Just bring everything. Bring every ounce of spirit and noise and voice and support, and please get there early. I implore you, please get in there early. You don't want to miss the TIFOs. You don't want to miss anything. Be in that stadium at least an hour before kickoff. The club are doing offers on beers if you get in there early enough. Take advantage of it. Take advantage of everything that you can. I'm going to be there about 3 hours before kickoff. Because I obviously usually am there 2 hours before kickoff, but it's going to be so busy that I know I need to be there a couple of hours. This is the last Champions League game at the Emirates this season. You can go to the pub after. You can go to the pub at midday if you want, but be in the Emirates Stadium at least an hour before kickoff. You may need to queue a bit to be in there at that time, but my goodness, will it be worth it for you to be in your seat? Get in your seats, claim your seats, and do everything you can to back this team because they deserve it. These players really deserve your support this season. They have fought through such adversity of injuries and awful decisions, and some of the greatest sides we have ever seen have come to this stadium and fallen. So please, we put 5 past Man City here this season. We put 3 past Real Madrid. We went away and won in the Bernabeu. We put 7 past the Dutch champions in their own backyard. And now we have to have a date with Paris again. And who knows what goes on beyond that. We watched our women's team overcome every odd on Sunday and win 4-1 in France. Everything that's happened this season leads to this point, to this day, to this moment, and you can be part of that. So don't waste it. Please, please, please do everything you can to support this team. I will be doing as much as I am able to from the quietness of the press box. But thank you so much for you all for listening. Drop a like, subscribe if you're new. And as always, up the Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners!